Okay, I'm going to talk to you about balancing equations. Now this comes in helpful in loads and loads of different aspects of science. So it's a really important skill and I'm going to show you a technique of how to go about doing it. Okay, so what an equation basically is we start off with the reactants. These are the things that react together to begin with. And on this side, we have our products. These are the things that are produced in a reaction. So this particular reaction is showing that methane and oxygen are reacting together, they are the reactants, to produce carbon dioxide and water. These are the products. Please notice how this is an arrow and not an equal sign, because our arrow is showing that there's a chemical reaction taking place to get from these to these. Now the reason why we balance equations is because atoms are never created or destroyed. They're just moved from one state into another state or another arrangement. So we can't have atoms just popping into existence or popping out of existence. So how do we go about balancing an equation? Now the first thing that we do is we separate the two sides of the equation. So we separate our reactants from our products. What we do next is we see how many of each atom we have on each side of the equation. So we can see here, I have one carbon, I have 4 hydrogens, and I have 2 oxygens. I know I've got 1 carbon rather than 4 carbons, because if I had 4 carbons, there'd be a little number 4 there. Remember, if we just see an atom by itself like this, there's just one of them. On this side, I can see I've got 1 carbon. Now I've got to be careful here because I've got 2 oxygens here, but I've also got 1 oxygen there. So that's a total of 3 oxygens. And on this side, I've got 2 hydrogens. Now another quick thing, I've seen a lot of students getting confused and thinking, well, how do I know how many different elements this is here? I'll use this as a little example. Now, whenever we have an element, it always starts with a capital letter. So I can see that here, if I've got a capital C and a capital O, I know I have 2 different atoms. However, because there's more elements than there are letters in the alphabet, not every single element can have its own capital letter. So this here, for example, cobalt, has got a lowercase o next to it. Because it's a lowercase o, I know that this belongs to that capital C. So whereas this is carbon and oxygen with 2 capital letters, this is 1 atom of cobalt. So remember that when we're looking at our balancing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it 1 atom at a time and try and balance this equation, because at the moment this is impossible. I've got 4 hydrogen atoms in my reactants and only 2 in my products. Now these couldn't have just popped out of existence, so I need to think about how to do this. So now lots of people try and balance this straight away by doing this. They put in these little numbers because now, look, I've got 4 H's on this side and 4 H's on this side, and I've got 3 oxygens on this side, and I've got 3 oxygens on this side. You cannot do it like this, okay? Now the reason why that is we knew the reaction that we were trying to balance, we've made carbon dioxide and water. Water is not H4O. So we never ever put in little numbers. Similarly, we know we're reacting oxygen, but we've said here that we've tried to put in a 3. Now O3 is actually an ozone molecule, not oxygen. So we can never put in little numbers. Instead, we've got to, the only places I can put numbers is before each of these different molecules. So it's at the beginning of each one. Because what we can say is we've got 2 lots of an H2O molecule. So let's have a look. First of all, my carbons, they're balanced, so I'm going to leave them for now. Next up, my hydrogens. Now they're not balanced. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a number in front of this hydrogen, 2. So what I'm now saying is I've got 2 lots of H2O molecules. So now what I need to do is update this to see how many hydrogens I have in total. So now on this side I have 4 hydrogens, 2 H2, so 4 in total. And I also have 2 oxygens here and 2 oxygens here. So I now have 4 here, okay? So remember, it's 2 lots of H2 and it's 2 lots of O. So that's how we do it, we multiply it. Nice one. So next up, we have a look through. Now carbons are balanced, good. Hydrogens are balanced, good. Oxygens are balanced, no they're not. So I can see I need more oxygens on this side in my reactants. As a result, remember, there's only I can only put numbers in front of a molecule. So I'm going to put a 2 right here to make it 2O2. So now, in total, I have 4 oxygens. Good. Now I'll quickly check, is it balanced? Carbons are balanced, hydrogens are balanced, oxygens are balanced. Well done. I've managed to balance my equation. So, just to recap, first of all, split your reactants and your products. See how many of each atom you have on each side. Remember, you could never ever put in little numbers. You can only put numbers before molecules. Make sure each and every atom is balanced. And then, well done, you can balance an equation.